Welcome to the Unspoken CEO podcast. Today, my guest is a friend of mine. I would say good friend, but we're not sure yet. But it's Marc Crawley, who has had a similar parallel journey to me over the last few years, and that he set up Diversita to help the neurodiverse just over 3 years ago. I'm not going to fudge explanations for what he's actually doing and why and how and where. I'm going to hand over to him and say good afternoon or good morning or good evening, wherever you are, Marc Crawley.
Mate, I would have gone acquaintance, friend, good friend, best friend. I'd say we're good friends now.
Yeah. Good friends. Okay. What qualifies us as good friends then?
Someone who's supportive, you trust, you get on well with, similar interests, similar age.
Similar age, interests. Yeah.
I don't know, mate. Listen, it may not be reciprocal, but from my side, I see you as a good friend.
Yeah. So we're not going to talk about Spurs, so that's the one thing that we do differ on. But I want you to tell me and the people watching and listening, what is it you do with this weird Diversita thing, and why are you doing it?
Of course, no worries. So, don't mean to sound too much. Is it Simon Sinek? About the sort of the how, the what, and the why. So what we do at Diversita, and I'm the founder and director of Diversita, is we're an organisation that helps all other companies become more neuro-inclusive. So if you're a company and you're looking to try and make your recruitment processes better for neurodivergent job seekers, or you're looking to train up managers to support neurodivergent employees, that's what we do. Right? So we focus around neurodiversity and neuro-inclusion. I'm assuming. Do you need to know what neurodiversity is to try and would that help to try and elaborate on that?
I don't. I'm kind of in the tent on that one, but what are the main areas you kind of help with? What do people talk about?
So I think what we do is we try to make sure that if you're autistic, you're ADHD, you're dyslexic, you're supported in the workplace, or if you're supported during interview and application processes. And there's some quite challenging statistics around lack of neuro-inclusion within the UK, particularly unemployment statistics, etc. So we're there to try and do that, and that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. I suppose the why is really important. Why we do that is embedded into everything we do. My youngest son is autistic. He was diagnosed when he was 3, and he's now 18. But when we started Diversita 3 years ago, he was was nearly 15. And I could just see some prohibitive practices around recruitment. And I've worked in recruitment for 20 years prior to Diversita. So our purpose was really clear at that point, to try and impact the employment opportunities for the neurodiversity community. Since then, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, but I'm self-diagnosed ADHD and going through the diagnosis process. So that's embedded into what we do now. And I suppose the how really is that we have a variety of training services now and platforms to try and support organisations and the neurodiversity community. And this is where we're probably a bit different. We don't just go in and do some training. We support the community as well, and we have loads of areas that we focus on to try and make sure we do that on a day-to-day basis.
Well said. I sat and listened diligently there, having heard it many times before. But I kind of know you've been on quite a journey over the last 3 years of where you're positioning it and where it's helping. Where are you finding that companies are getting the most benefit out of what you guys are doing?
I think it comes from a variety of different places. Right? So companies will, I suppose, initially reach out. And let's assume that most companies are really, really early on in their journey. They're keen just to understand what neurodiversity means, right? And what the term means, and what neurodivergent against neurodiverse means, and what person first language and identity first language is, what masking is, all of these areas. So I always think that's where we make the most impact initially, where we almost sort of open people's eyes to the subject. But what also happens there, and it happens 90% of the time, is that when we do these sessions for a company and we do like an hour-long lunch and learn, for example, I'll get a message afterwards on LinkedIn from someone said, I haven't told anyone, but I'm autistic and I work at this organization, or I've had an experience recently through some bias or something like that, right? And so it's that conversation, it's bringing it in to the day-to-day vernacular of these organizations. But it's after that which I find the most interesting, because it's like, well, what do you want to focus on next? What action do you want to do? Right? Is it recruitment? Is it people manager training? Is it HR policy? All of these areas. But whatever they're doing, I know, and this is where we get the most, I suppose, enjoyment or satisfaction, is that indirectly or directly, it's hopefully helping move this conversation and support the neurodiversity community. And that's the anchor of everything we do, right? That's what we're hanging on to. And I'm not trying to sound idealistic. That's why we exist. So everything we do has to do that, right? We're not just a simple training provider. So.
Yeah, and what I love is you start with the company going, how do we handle this? And then you take them through the various layers. And I'm thinking back to my experience, because I'm ADHD. I've got a proper diagnosis from a proper doctor that I fully believe you, don't worry. And I support people getting their own diagnoses, because otherwise you're waiting until beyond death to get one. But I was 49 so many years ago in Deloitte. And I didn't realize at the time how transformational it was for me, but it changed my life. It made me realize, these things I used to criticize myself for, they're now strengths. But when I was at this company, Deloitte, I can say it, I told the people on the program I was working with, told the leadership, and they really didn't like the idea. They were like, okay, well, just shut up and do your job. And I found that very difficult to handle, because actually what it did was it made me realize that, hey, I'm here. I'm the ideas guy. I'm the catalyst. I'm the guy I'm here to do a vision on a big project. And it was the beginning of the end for me on that project. I walked off it in the end because I just thought, I'm just not welcome here.
Yeah.
And I think it made me realize that there's such a long way to go. And I've since spoken to somebody else there, and I definitely won't say who it is, but it is a senior leader who I know is diagnosed as ADHD, but not telling anyone, because it will hinder his career. And he is very senior. The sort of level where you think you can say what you want, but you can't. And that's actually part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast of the Unspoken CEO. What's going on behind the mask or the facade of, like, the more we can get people to be honest, whether it's neurodiversity or any of the DE&Is, the happier I believe we all will be. But that sense of still having to hide is there, because it has the feeling is it has a detrimental impact on your career.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's what you're improving.
Yeah, I think so. And we did, and you were part of this. We did a report last year around the experiences of neurodivergent women, and one of the key themes that come out of it was the impact on career progression if you disclose. But what I would suggest, and one of the key areas that we try to focus on, which may be slightly different to other neurodiversity consultancies, is that we're not frightened of having the return on investment conversation, right, with companies, because you have to have different dimensions for different audiences. Someone in ED&I or DEI will focus around this from a well-being, a belonging perspective, and that's great, and it genuinely is important. HR may look at it from a policy perspective to protect them, but the business are often thinking, okay, how does this help my organization on a day-to-day basis? So if you can start to bring in case studies from people like JP Morgan and Capgemini and IBM and all of those to show the impact of supporting neurodivergent employees, then that's fantastic. Because it doesn't just need to be a nice thing to do. You suddenly have individuals that are far more productive, far more supported. And we haven't got started on things like talent shortages within the UK and that opportunity there. So that ROI conversation, and when you start to educate managers and business leaders around the fact that there are some challenges, admittedly, there are some accommodations and adjustments to be made, but there's so many strengths there that you can try to get organizations to see. If you can start having that conversation, then hopefully people like you won't have that negative experience going forward, right? It's always going to be isolated. It's always going to be part of it, but we're trying to move that forward.
Yeah, and I'm fully with you on that. You need to get to the money. There is money in this. or is it 20% of people are neurodiverse in some way or other? Is that the figure?
In the UK,
So,
it's 17 to 20%. Yeah. But
so that's a large number. And the one I keep going to is people just think, oh, autistic, and oh, that's Rain Man. There are so many layers. And then you've got dyslexia, with NASA always having a NASA always has a dyslexic person on a flight because they see things differently. So you avoid groupthink, where the norm in a company is to recruit people that fit the mold, and you just get groupthink. You just get groupthink. You get different shades of grey. Where bringing neurodiverse people, you'll get the full spectrum. That's my passion. And even if it will feel odd and difficult at times to work with them, that's just a case of learning different ways and growing new muscles.
It is, mate. It is. But I think, again, what's important, and I think this is again a conversation we're not frightened to have, is to make this information quite palatable, right? Because it's quite a complex subject sometimes, and it can sometimes be as simple as one of your employees wants to travel off peak so they don't have to travel on a busy train in the morning. It can sometimes be as simple as an individual prefers verbal instructions as they prefer, rather than a massive long sentence or a 10-page report. Right? It's about these minor accommodations on a day-to-day basis that can suddenly make someone feel that sense of belonging, that sense of supportingness, and be able to contribute a lot more. And again, this is the education piece around this going forward. But it's nowhere near where it needs to be, right? But it's we're just starting to see those, is this phrase, green shoots in some of the companies that we work with in particular.
Yeah, and I think I know well about the adjustments, and actually we've always been adjusting at work. Before neurodiversity existed, we all knew how to handle people differently. This is just formalizing it a little bit more. It's not, oh my God, it's a neurodiverse person, we've got to suddenly change all of the wallpaper and have the blinds down. It's not going that far.
Absolutely.
It's just adapting. So where are you going? So I know I've got to ask questions that are relevant, but I know all of this, and I know that you've had an up and down path with diversity, and it's now doing very well, and the future's looking rosy. Where's the future for you guys?
I think for us, it's whatever we do, it contributes back to making an impact for the neurodiversity community, right? So for us, there's no doubt we want to expand the type of services, training, offerings we can make for organizations, right? To make sure that they have the information and the tools they need to create neuro-inclusive environments. The other key thing for us is, and I never want to lose sight of this, and it would have been easy for us not to do this, is because we want to make sure that we always support and give really practical advice to the neurodivergent community. So at the moment, we have a digital platform which we launched early part of this year, where we put webinars, people can ask us questions, and it's very low cost, and it gives, for example, a job seeker tips around interviewing. It gives a job seeker tips around identifying neuro-inclusive companies. It gives a job seeker or an employee tips around disclosure and self-advocating, all of these things. And I just want to keep expanding that, right? And there's no other platform like that, right? So that itself is a growth. But then we have a job board that we're trying to grow as well. We want to make sure that organizations have the opportunity to attract neurodivergent talent. But most importantly is that job seekers feel safe to apply for those jobs and disclose. They don't have to question it. They don't have to think about it twice. They know, right, it's on the Diversita job board, I'm going to disclose because I know I'm going to get a positive experience. May not get a job, but I'll get a really inclusive candidate experience. So these are the type of areas we're looking to go into.
And that job board, this is companies that are advertising their jobs on their own websites, etc. They're putting them on your job board as well to widen the reach. And they're appreciating, we're actually interested in getting neurodiverse people into these roles. I think that's fantastic.
It could be. It's I think it's because when we do recruitment audits, for example, we review website presence and what the messaging says to a neurodivergent audience. Now, if someone just goes on our job board, they see there's a job from X organization, they can simply press apply. Not have to worry. not have to worry about anything. And that's what we want to, that's a journey though, right? And it could take a while, but that's what we're trying to aim towards. So it's all integrated really. It's that archetypical pincer movement. We're working on helping the community to give them the tools. We're working on companies and we're trying to bring that together. What we're not at the moment is a recruitment agency, which I've got to be honest, we did start out as. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. And I'm happy to explain them, but at the moment, we feel we're better equipped to offer advice in different ways.
Go on then, you open it up. Why aren't you a recruitment company then?
I think we have, when we started, I was, again, quite idealistic. I worked in recruitment a long time, and we felt that we would be able to simply work with neurodivergent job seekers and then work with organizations that were looking to recruit. And what we had is a variety of challenges here, right? The key one being that a lot of organizations were recruiting directly. They weren't using recruitment agencies, no matter how nice they were, right? Or how purpose-driven they were. So that was one of the key obstacles. The bigger challenge was that our community, a lot of the time, needed quite tailored advice, right? And what we wanted to do there is make sure that we were able to provide that advice on quite a wide scale. And that's why we've moved to the digital platform to give this advice. So people can self-advocate, promote all of these things and take control of their own applications with a lot more confidence. So we wasn't really getting traction on either side. And now we hear some brilliant stories every day where a job seeker will come to us and say, look, I watched the webinar. It was great. I found this company that were really promoting neuroinclusivity, reached out to them. I've got an interview next week, right? And that's fantastic. The flip side is organizations, we can train recruitment teams at these companies to be neuroinclusive rather than being the recruitment agency that helps them. And it's what's that phrase? You give a man a fish, they eat for a day. Give a man a fishing rod, they eat forever. Is that right? I think it is. Probably totally
teach a man to fish.
That's it. Anyway, okay.
Fair enough.
No fishing rods involved, but fair enough.
Train people in neurodiversity, not fishing. You'll be fine.
Absolutely. But that's the mistake, isn't it? We're going in there and saying now to catch halibut. But anyway, but the key thing there is that we feel that our advice is having a wider reach now. And that's the key part for us. We never want to be an obstacle. And I felt that as a recruitment agency, we're too narrow and we were sometimes an unnecessary obstacle around it. And we really were. Yeah. And I'll give an example. Say we're working with a candidate and I reach out to a company and I say, do you want to see this candidate? Well, we do, but we don't want to pay a recruitment fee. I don't want to be the organization that says, well, I'm not going to send the candidate over now. Right? Now we don't have that problem, right? Of course.
Brilliant. Do you think it's something you'll go back to? I suppose it depends on the market, how the market changes.
I think we would. If we did, it would have to be, I think, in a almost like a project environment, as in, look, we're really keen to make a big change here and we're going to commit to hiring a certain amount of people across the next year. I think then we'd probably do it because then we can give a lot more reassurance to our community around the opportunities, rather than it being you'll be considered across alongside other candidates, etc. So.
Yeah. All right then. So where's the goal? Where's the big goal? Because I know you started. We're going to do recruitment. That hasn't worked, but actually, in doing what you've done, you've found where the need is, and the need is companies needing to understand how to actually embrace having neurodiverse people. Where's the big goal? Where when we're sat on a beach with pina coladas or whatever in the Maldives, talking about our millions we've made, what will you have delivered? What will you have changed?
If the Maldives, it's a fair point. I've got to be honest. I don't, because we're only 3 years old. I don't really think, talking honestly like that, I don't think about what is the end goal or the main aim or anything here. If there's something measurable where we've made an impact, particularly in, say, for example, the employment statistics, right? Or there's something measurable where there's a certain percentage of companies we've helped, then that would be amazing. That would be amazing, right? That really would. And I don't know what that number looks like. I don't know what the future services look like. I don't know how many people we'd have working for us, etc. It might be that we're always quite compact in terms of an organization, but that means that we can keep the purpose alive, right? And the one thing we didn't mention at the start of this is that 5 people work for Diversita at the moment, and 4 of them are Crawleys, right? So It's whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? But ultimately it means we're all going in that same direction.
Yeah. So good old family business.
Yeah.
All right. I was
Yeah.
going to move on and talk about the little standard questions that I like to ask, because the point of this podcast is let's see what's going on under the water. So you're the swan, it all looks lovely and smiley, but there's stuff going on in the background.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you to bring out one experience where it hasn't been too rosy, what's going on, but you've had to keep the straight face at the front. Have you got one?
For Diversita,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Or otherwise.
No, I think there's no doubt we have again, talking honestly, we have an investor, right? And prior to meeting that person, which was unbelievably fortunate, right? There was it wasn't like I had a pitch deck and just went out and started trying to find investors or anything like that. It was just really, really fortunate. A few weeks before that, I was like, this isn't going to work, right? We had very little revenue coming in. We were about over a year old at that point. We had very little. We had a lot of people say they liked what we were doing, but weren't committing. We were spending a lot of time talking to neurodivergent job seekers, but weren't able to find them roles. And it was just coming in from both sides. And then we had no money, right, as well as a company, which of course then has a bit of an impact as a family. And it was hard, right? It was hard. It really was. And it's like, well, what do we do, right? How do we move this forward? Is this going to be a flash in the pan after a year, etc.? And that was tough. I'm not going to lie. I'm not someone. Again, I'm not trying to. Hopefully, you know me long enough now. I'm quite a humble person, right? But I'm not used to.
Easily.
I'm not used to. I'm the most humble person ever. Yeah. I'm not used to.
No, Donald Trump.
Yeah, I'm not used to failing in those instances, right? I think, and it was tough. It was tough, but when we met the investor, they were happy to put in some money, get some really good sort of tax benefits from doing so. And there's a really good scheme from the government to support small businesses, and it made me realise then how naive I'd been before that about investment and about that journey. And about the type of ambitions I had for it, etc. So that was a dark time, but obviously with a positive result. Because if we hadn't met that person in an incredibly fortunate way, I don't think we'd be sitting here now. So yeah,
that's dark. And what's the biggest learning from that? What to take away?
Mate, do you know what? I've got so many learnings from running a small business like this. I don't even know where to start. But I think that one is definitely around realistic planning. When you work in a sales environment for a lot of years, particularly the last company I worked in, you were very you were encouraged to be incredibly optimistic about the type of targets you were going to deliver, or the type of sales you were going to deliver, or the type of progress you were going to make. And I carried that in to Diversita, and it was naive, mate. It really was. And because of that, it puts on the back foot. It mismanaged what success looked like. All of those things. So yeah,
I do find it hard, don't you, that we've both done startups in the last 3 years. I'm on my second one now. I've got 2 running. And we've got squeaky bum time all the time, and we're somewhere between a cardboard box and a mansion. We don't know, but we both come from industry where somebody paid our salary, somebody gave us a bonus, somebody gave us some management. We both come from that world where, okay, we're very good at what we do. We really are. That's why we succeeded. But now all of a sudden we've got to do this new thing called run a business. And I for one, didn't really appreciate what that meant. And
no,
it's like the Wild West out there. There's a million people we know on LinkedIn who are telling you to do it this way, that way. We'll sell you this. We'll sell you clients. It's chaos. But having to realize that actually being very good at what you do isn't the most important thing, I found really difficult. And thinking, okay, I've got to go and find clients. I'm good at business strategy, and there's lots of people that could benefit from me, but I've got to go and find them. That was hard.
It is hard. And when you work for a bigger company like I did, it made me very, very quickly appreciate all of the support that I had from marketing and HR and all of these other teams. And it took me back to when I bought my first house and I went to make a cup of tea and I was like, hold on, I ain't got any cups and I ain't got a kettle and I haven't got any tea, right? And suddenly you have to do everything, right? And I've always been one of those people that doesn't mind getting their hands dirty. I worked in retail for years. I don't mind. I'll do anything, right? So it didn't bother me having to go back to sales. Didn't bother me having to update laptops. Didn't bother me having to make LinkedIn posts. Didn't bother me to go and buy equipment. All of these things. It was fine, right? But it's hard. It's hard task switching, I think, initially.
Because we all want to do the fun stuff, and the fun stuff is the stuff we're good at. But client outreach day or whatever, but you're doing it. And now what I'm seeing is people are actually coming to you where in the past you were going to find clients, people are finding you. So I'm definitely seeing, by talking to you all the time, I'm seeing the switch in the way Diversita is perceived and the benefits people are getting from it.
Yeah, definitely. And when you run a service-based business like that, you and I see this a lot with some of the other neurodivergent founders who work within this community, is that self-promotion and business development isn't always a key skill that they gravitate towards. And I understand why, right? It's tough. But it's like that phrase, isn't it? If not you, then who, right? Some days when you're sitting there and you've got a business in there and you've got you've not got any companies that want to talk to you around what you feel so passionate around. You have to go and educate, and you have to go and reach out, and you have to go and do these things. I think, talking honestly though, what we have, which really got us through some of the more challenging times, is every time that I felt, you know what, this isn't going to work, or this is going to be really tough, I talked to a member of our community, and they say, I love what you're doing, right? Or they share a journey or share a story. And again, I'm not trying to be that man of the people or anything, but that's what we're trying to help on a day-to-day basis, right? And that just sort of brought us back at every point, I would say.
Yeah, we'll stick at it. Absolutely. Right, we're going to move on to the next bit. Which is 3 things that you'd like to tell us that people that work with you or your customers don't know about you, and you're not allowed to talk about Spurs because we all know you do.
You talking about European champion Spurs? Is that the team you're talking about?
I was talking about bottom of the league Spurs. Actually, are they different?
Yeah, Champions League next year. But
so you said
this could be anything. I take it this is not just work related. This is
all too often. I think we're all a bit too stuff shirty, thinking we've got to be clever and sensible and serious. Where the opposite is true. The better people know you, the more they're going to trust you. So tell them.
So I'm not overly interesting, but there are a few things. So I've been to Walt Disney World in Florida over 20 times.
Why? Wow.
And so bearing in mind my kids haven't been that much. We just need to show you how much I do like it. So me and my wife used to go a lot. We've been on a honeymoon, etc., etc. Just like, I know, just massive Disney fan. I'm sure it'll come down to like not having a lot growing up and stuff, and see. But you know what it was? I used to watch. Anytime I got an opportunity to watch anything about America when I was a kid, I was just blown away. Right? I know you can't really mention his name now, but when you used to watch Jonathan King's Entertainment USA, and you used to see, I used to be, oh God, I want to go there. I want to go to university.
Yeah, we all thought America was brilliant, didn't we?
Mate, everything was bigger. Everything was massive. Best technology, everything. So that's over the years, and my kids love it as well. So that's one. I helped. This is a really surreal one. I helped Princess Diana escape from the paparazzi once.
Really? I didn't know this one.
Yeah, genuinely.
You didn't tell me.
I used to work for WHSmiths in Kensington, and she used to come in all the time with that guy. What's his name? Paul Burrell.
Oh, Minder. Paul Burrell, is it?
Yeah, that's it. So she'd come in. She was buying some music for the. That's when it was CDs and cassettes, right? So she used to buy some stuff. And there was so much paparazzi outside the front door that she asked if there was an entrance that she could leave from. And so I took her down the stockroom, through the back, and there's like a service entrance, and she went out there. So yeah.
Oh, sweet.
I know, it's like it's the most cool thing ever.
What did you like, man? Did you exchange numbers? Are you still in touch?
Do you know what? Weirdly, it wasn't the first time I'd spoke to her or met her, because obviously she used to come in quite a lot, because she only lived in Kensington Palace, I think, around the corner.
Only Benson Hedges.
So she was very nice, always very polite, very nice, and she used to always try to buy stuff for the kids. So it was great. It was great. Privileged to have met her, actually, genuinely. So it was.
Oh, no, that is nice.
And I'm trying to think. I can't really think of anything else. But I tell you, I did. By default, I won a donkey derby at Bracklesham Bay when I was a kid.
By default.
And it was the first time I'd ever been on a donkey. My mum entered me, and do you know what happened? There was like 20 kids, right, on these horses, and I made a decision really early on, and you could relate this probably to Diversita, that I thought, I'm just going to hang on, right? I'm not going to let go, right? And I don't care how fast it goes or anything like that. And every other kid fell off. And come through at the end and won it. So
that is exactly what you're doing with Diversita, isn't it?
Exactly. Analogies. That's where we go from.
So you want a new logo. You want a donkey.
Me on a donkey. That's it. Yeah. It's so yeah. And I think my mum's still got a rosette. So I'll have to try and bring it out one day. Stick it. I might put it on LinkedIn. That's a good post, isn't it? You can say, this is the day I'll hang on. Talk me everything I need to know about life. Yeah.
Me and me donkey.
Me and my donkey. Yeah. He never calls, never writes. Do you know what I mean? So, that's got everything you need. That story, isn't it? Like English holiday, Bracklesham Bay, donkey derbies, all that sort of stuff. So
I don't worry for kids today because we're old, but all the films we grew up with, where you saw things like Mr. Punch and donkeys, and Carry On or whatever, they don't see those films. So I wonder if they even know these things existed.
No,
they used to sit through Mr. Punch, and it was rubbish.
It is rubbish. Yeah, you're right. And I'm sure that there was another 19 kids sprawled along the floor with various injuries. It wasn't great as well. So
they didn't get rosette.
They didn't get rosette. They didn't, and no compensation like they probably get now. So yeah.
Cool. What a sweet little three. I'm stuck on the Diana one. I didn't really realise that she'd go down WHSmiths. You kind of thought she'd send somebody.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, isn't it? Yeah. WHSmiths in Kensington. That was like my first job as well, my first full-time job. I loved it. That's where I met my wife as well. So yeah, it's a place, a time where it was. I've got a lot of fond memories. Absolutely.
Just as they're getting rid of all their high street shops.
This is it. So annoying. Yeah. Do you know what? I read that the other day.
Yeah. Madness. Never mind. How many other retailers that aren't around anymore have you worked for?
I worked for Blazer. Do you remember Blazer?
Blazer, they're gone.
Cecil G.
Gone.
How
many others have you killed?
Yeah, this is it. I'm the common theme, isn't it? I went in there, run them to the ground, and that was it.
You must have worked at WHS at some point.
No, Gap. I did.
That's gone.
It is. But I used to manage the Gap store under the Sanyo sign, in Piccadilly Circus.
Oh yeah, I know the one. Yeah,
that was horrible, mate. What a horrible store. Oh, it was so bad. It's at the highest rate of theft, I think, per square foot in the UK. It was because of where it is. It was a really tough store to manage. I hated every second of it. Yeah, but Gap doesn't exist anymore as a store, so that's another one.
Well, you're doing well with Diversita, so hold on.
Exactly, because it's not retail, right? Retail obviously wasn't my bag. It took me 12 years to realise that, but yeah.
Cool. Well, that's all I had to cover. I was going to say, in true interview fashion, are there any questions for me?
No, I think. How do we've talked a lot anyway, right? So I do know quite a bit, but yeah, how do you find running a startup? I mean, what sort of things have you learned then? Are they similar? I know you was bragging just now to say you got 2 as well, which I found a bit unnecessary, right? But
it was a brag, but you know the truth of it. It's hard. It's juggling them. one is kind of trying to keep the lights on over the other because the other one could become very successful. It plays with your mind, but it's a weird one. I've never been happier in my life. I don't miss having a job. I'm still learning. I think the one thing that's screaming in my head to say is I am fed up of people telling me how to do it. And especially as a coach, I don't tell people how to do it. I help them work out what works for them. Yeah. I'm doing something, particularly on the Evernoll, the sustainability one, I'm doing something that doesn't exist yet. And it's a real punt. And if it works, it'll be great. But everyone's saying, well, it's not going to work. So, well, yeah, look, the iPhone wasn't going to work. Lots of things don't work, but I'm trying it. So it's holding. I heard a great phrase from the guy, Chris Grimes, the other day of stay on the bus. So it's very easy. You know, we set off from here and we want to get to Marble Arch, wherever it is, 20 stops. And the bus keeps stopping and you look around and the bus keeps stopping. And after 3 stops, you know, confused, I'm going to get off. Stay on the bus. Do what it takes to stay on the bus. And I think that's what I'm doing with definitely the sustainability one. But it's a tighter roller coaster than a job, but the highs are so much more fun. And I'm learning stuff every day. How do you find it like that?
I do, and I think you've got to have that first to learn more, right? As well, some people, I know enough. Yeah. I don't want to have to learn more. But one question I was going to ask you, only because, again, I met with someone the other day that gave me quite an interesting stat to say about 90% of startups fail, right? And they just have to fold them, etc. But why, obviously, what do you think the main reasons are for that? Why are such an incredibly high percentage, particularly as you'd imagine a lot of those startups are driven by passion. They're driven by a personal interest, right? And people might gravitate towards an expertise they had previously. So, yeah, it really interested me to think, well, why so many failing?
I would say Sage Me thinks, and I've seen along the way, I've seen lots of small startups that haven't worked. And I think it's a combination of commitment and the wrong idea.
Right.
That's a challenge that, you know, I'm going to go and sell this stuff called sand to the people in Saudi Arabia because we've got it on our beaches. I'm sure they'd want it on there. No, it's kind of like it's almost an overconfidence. And then I do wonder how much of it is jumping ship too quickly. So getting off the bus, if you like, getting off the bus when it's like, oh, this is hard. Well, it is going to be hard. Somebody told me in the first 6 months of a startup, you won't earn any money. So as long as you know that, you'll be fine. And all the people that you think are going to pick up the phone to you, all of a sudden, they're not there anymore. So I thought I'll tell everyone what I'm doing. They'll all be like, yeah, great, I'll help you.
Yeah.
Silence. And it's those kind of, it's being resilient that gets you through. So there are many opportunities to jump ship and get back into a job. But I'm holding firm because I'm enjoying this. But there are days like you where it's like, okay, the pipeline's not looking great, is it? Or this big thing we're building on Evernoll, that could absolutely just fall flat on its face. Yeah. But if it does, I'll deal with it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, there's some really good points there. And even when I think about our journey, there's been days or months where we've had no business money, no personal money. You're working harder than you ever have done before. And that's what I mean. It's important that you latch on to your main focus or your why, right? And that why is I think it has to be there. Otherwise, there'll be days where you just give up. And I can see why a lot of people do. Because the resilience you need to show is incredible.
Yeah. And if anyone ever watches this, they're never going to give you a job in a shop again. So you're stuck doing this.
This is it. That's closed. I think that door for me. Do you know what I mean? Not unless, you're looking to go out of business quite rapidly, and not just as an individual store, as an entire chain as well.
I'd love you to get a job in the M&M shop on Leicester Square because I really don't understand why that thing exists. Please,
it's too big.
I've never even been in. I don't see the point of it,
mate. Huh? What's that?
I just don't see the point of it. I mean, an M&M is that big, right? So
it's way too big. It must just be a way of advertising for M&Ms They must just put it into the marketing budget. It cannot make money, surely. No one's paying 90 quid for a rucksack with M&Ms on it. Surely.
No,
surely.
I mean, it's good if it's raining, you can go in there, but
it's 2 floors, mate. It's too big. It's too big, but that's another story.
There's the Lego shop. Go in the Lego shop. That's fun.
Exactly.
All right. So moving on. If people want to get in touch with you, just quickly say how and what. Let's remind us, what do you do for companies? Without going into the whole 10-minute spiel, but why would a company want you to help them?
So if you're a company and you're looking to raise neurodiversity awareness, you're looking to make your recruitment processes more neuro-inclusive and more approachable for neurodivergent job seekers, or you're looking to upskill your managers in terms of making sure they have the tools to support neurodivergent employees, then 100% get in touch with us. That is what we can do. We do other things like recruitment audits and consultancy work and outplacement support and other areas, but those are like the key pillars to start in your journey. To get in touch, my own email is mcrawley@diversita.co.uk. I'm sure you'll put it on to wherever platform you put this on, mate. But yeah, just email me or go to the website www.diversita.co.uk.
Yeah. No, the website is very good, very clear and concise, tells people what you actually do and how you help.
I hope so. We've spent a lot of time doing that, mate. It's like the third incarnation of the website.
No, it's clear.
And my son still wants to build another one, so I have to keep reining him in. But no, we'd love to talk to anyone who's interested in the subject, or even just wants to maybe explore a few ideas. Love it.
Cool. All right. Well, let's finish it there. Do get in touch with Marc. Marc, thank you very much. I've enjoyed chatting to you again. It's like I do it all the time. But that was the Unspoken CEO. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.